Okay, Jessica, we are up on YouTube right now, and this is the unedited version on YouTube. So it'll be up for everyone to see how much work or how much change goes into a podcast and what the final episode looks like. And you're going to be probably episode 2 here too. We're not going to tell them that on the podcast, but
Okay.
as we go.
Cool.
So about 5 seconds of quiet before we go into the podcast. Welcome to Podcaster, episode 2. Jessica, are you ready to create a podcast?
I am so ready to create a podcast.
And you look really good. Can I tell a secret right now that you're pregnant?
Yes. It's
Second
not a secret
child?
to many anymore. Yeah. Second child due in about 6 weeks from the date of this recording. So
And you get around too. You were like, what? We were in Las Vegas not long ago and you were out there.
I was jet setting across the country this past spring, getting all my traveling and my conferences in while I could, because my last event, I went to Podcast New England a few weeks ago. And that was my last, I mean, that was just an hour from where I live. So, but that was my last conference until probably the spring. I don't know what's going on this fall.
Yeah, you get out and about. And, for the listener, people in the podcasting world know who you are. You're at the conferences, you have great services for podcasters. But tell the listener what you do. Some of these are new podcasters, some of these have never podcasted before.
Absolutely. I am the founder of interviewconnections.com, and we are the premier source for booking outstanding podcast guests. So, in addition to having 2 podcasts of my own and a web TV show, which is a video podcast as well on iTunes, I run Interview Connections with a team, virtual staff, and we work with podcasters to find and book and coordinate their guest interviews. And we also work with entrepreneurs to get them booked as a guest on other shows. So reaching out to podcasters, pitching them as a guest, and making those interview connections.
And I remember you were on episode 47, probably close to a year ago on Timelines.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, close to a year ago. You set up all the original shows for Timelines when I started podcasting.
Yeah, we booked a lot of guests with you. That was great.
Right. And also, one of the things, though, is you didn't have a podcast yourself back then.
I did not. It took me a little while to actually get behind the mic myself. It's like when you're working so hard on everyone else's podcast, you find out if it's hard to find the time to do your own. But I did start it in October 1st of 2014 was the launch date of Rhodes to Success, and I've become hooked.
Now, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I have to in my job.
Right.
But I listened to your latest one. It was excellent with Tom
Schwab.
Tom Schwab. Yeah, excellent podcast. And your sound has improved so much.
Thank you.
You got an ATR 2100, and I see the good old Blue Yeti back in the corner.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I started with the Blue Yeti, and it's funny when you podcast because you start to have a trained ear. If you had asked me before I started podcasting, if I listened to an interview with a Yeti and an ATR or a High L, I might not be able to tell the difference. But after a while, I wanted to get a better sounding mic, so I got the ATR 2100, and I'm sure it won't be long before I upgrade again.
Right. The ATR 2100, I still like the sound of it, even with my own voice. This has a slightly different sound. I've got the Heil PR40, and I've met Heil too at Las Vegas, which is really neat to do.
I did. I did as well. I met somebody from Heil at Social Media Marketing World. I met somebody who works there, and they're great mics. They sound amazing.
Yeah. Bob Heil was actually in Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
And I just done a podcast down on site in Laguna Beach at a really high-end place of a fairly famous person. And Bob Heil had set up his studio and set up his restaurant, all the systems, and they knew each other. So it was kind of neat to meet Bob Heil there. That's one of the things you get to do at conferences.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is cool. I met somebody in the marketing department, but that's awesome.
Now, I think you gave away where you lived. You're coming from New England, but do we say it's Warwick?
I'm in Warwick, Rhode Island.
Warwick, Rhode Island. That's one thing about podcasting. As long as you have an internet connection, you can be almost anywhere.
Exactly.
So what got you into podcasting? What was your transition over the last few years? I know you started with Pinterest, online work, and actually staying at home work, wasn't it, when you got pregnant? Something like that.
It was, yeah. When I got pregnant with my first child, I wanted to have I wanted to have an income from home. So my dad showed me how to start an online business doing virtual assistant work. And really the start of my interest in podcasting was one of the tasks that I did for my dad, because he's a business coach and an entrepreneur, was I was booking him for interviews on podcasts. So that's really how I discovered this world of online marketing, small business entrepreneurs who have their own podcasts. I, discovered that world. And as I was booking him for interviews and I was connecting interviews with other clients and podcasters, I podcasting was taking off. I was hearing there was a need, that there was nobody out there connecting guests and podcasters. So I just listened for that need, and I created interviewconnections.com so I could have a business that could scale and serve a lot of podcasters and a lot of people who want to be interviewed. And as I did that, and as the business grew, obviously I started getting interviewed on a lot of podcasts. And after a while of being a guest on podcasts, I finally bit that bullet and started one myself. So now I have the Rhodes to Success podcast, and I also co-host the Podcast Producers.
The podcast producers. I was just looking for that.
Yeah.
I didn't have the podcast producers up.
I co-host that with Corey Coates, who is the co-founder of Podfly Productions
Uh-huh.
at podfly.net. And it's a 10-episode audio series about the art and business of podcasting. We released all 10 episodes on April 6th. And now, a few months later, we're starting to release all of the raw and uncut interviews, because the series is kind of, it's NPR like, there's
Uh-huh.
snippets of all of our interviews throughout the whole series. So there was a lot of audio left on the cutting room floor. So we are now showing all the behind the scenes recordings as we ramp up for season 2, probably in 2016.
And that's Podfly, right?
Podfly.net
Podfly.
is Corey's business. The Podcast Producers is at thepodcastproducers.com.
And Corey, I met Corey in Las Vegas at the National, which, by the way, they had the podcasters, MNX, along with the national broadcasters.
Yeah.
So it was quite interesting.
Right, Bill. Yeah, you interviewed me at that booth, just a couple booths down from Podfly.
Yep. You're in another episode. That's like 100 and something on Timeline, where I brought everybody together.
Yeah, I don't think I listened to that. You'll have to send me that link.
I didn't do really good at sending out a bunch of links. I'm so busy. That's why that's one of my problems. I need to delegate out more too. We've been working on a big project.
Yeah, you got a lot going on.
I've got some pretty good people around me right now too.
Yeah.
But driving on, that's sort of like how you got into podcasting. We're going to go into this 3 elements of this interview. And of course, you're interview number 2. So we did the evolution, how you got into it. We're going to ask some bottom line upfront questions, and then we're going to tie it all together. So on the bottom line up front, I think you sort of answered this, but we asked, do you monetize, or do you do it as a hobby, passion? You monetize in some aspects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this question, because oftentimes when we say, do you monetize, we automatically think, do you have an advertiser or a sponsor? And I don't monetize in the traditional sense that I don't have sponsors on my podcast. I am my sponsor. Interview Connections is my sponsor. And so my podcast is absolutely a part of my business and a way to monetize my business. Number one, I look at my podcast as a way to increase my client retention. I interview a lot of clients as a way to build a deeper relationship with them. I interview people about topics that my clients want to know about. So you mentioned my most recent, as we're recording this, my most recent episode is with my client, Tom Schwab, about how he's using podcast interviews to grow his business. This is a topic that all of my clients want to know about. So I create that podcast, and I can specifically market it and recommend it to my clients, which they're getting helpful information from me through my podcast, which keeps them working with me longer. So it's absolutely a podcast that is monetized, but not in the traditional sense of a sponsor paying me for airtime. So I think that's a common misconception, because a lot of people think if you don't have an advertiser, it's not monetized. But if you're using it as a way to build your brand and build your business and keep your clients with you longer, then it is a way to, it's monetized.
I understand exactly what you said, but you'll be surprised as you evolve and you learn to work on commercials that you will have people come to you and ask you to do commercials.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised, and you don't need a lot of volume. It depends how the target audience is and how well you develop your mail list, things of that nature. It just happens.
Oh yeah, I've had people approach me about sponsoring my podcast, but I'm like frankly, I'm not interested in having sponsors
Right.
because I want everyone to focus on my business.
I'm similar to what you say. We do a few commercials on the tech side, but the other thing I do is even on YouTube, I don't have any, try to avoid any commercials that nature, just try to
Mhm.
get people listening and watching.
Right,
So very
right.
good. So we're going to go into your equipment. Now I know that you have all these experts around you and they've helped you set up and you've evolved. You started out with your Blue Yeti and you have the ATR
Mhm.
2100. Yeah,
Yep.
you have a Mac. Anything else special that you use?
Yeah, I have an iMac, and when I have this ATR 2100 with this, mic
Mic
stand that
stand,
I
right?
really, really like because get it right in front of your
Yep.
face. You can stand, you can sit, and I record with Ecamm call recorder, and then I send it off to my producer, so I don't have a mixer, but yeah, so that's my setup. It's basic, but, with a good mic and a good producer and a solid
Wow.
computer, get a pretty good sounding podcast.
There are a lot of different ways to do things, and you do
Mhm.
it really streamlined. That's way I'd say you do it one of the best ways just to execute it and do it. That's very good. No mixer, and it
Nope.
sounds great.
I looked at a mixer, I'm like, "I don't wanna learn how to use that."
Well, a little mixer's not that tough.
No, and it is something I was looking into as I was getting ready to start my podcast. I wanted to do it really, really well, but you can have a really good sounding podcast without a mixer, and, one day I might upgrade to that, but it wasn't necessary for me to get started, and so I started and, as you've said, just the one change that I've made going from a Yeti to an ATR, you even, said
Mhm.
sounds it went from good to great, so there's very few people out there that whose ears are trained so closely to hear the difference between a call recorder and a mixer. And when you have a producer who can add all the compressions and the mixes and all that good stuff,
Yeah.
it ends up sounding great.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I could even get my sound better, but I do it fairly fast. I edit myself right now, and that's one of those areas that I will contract out. But I'm
Mhm.
still doing some uh, creative work when I edit that I can't really contract that out. So I need to get it down where
Right.
elements are contracted out. But
Yeah.
you must do that if you want to grow a business. You can't do it all yourself.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely have to delegate. I mean, I do weekly videos and I edit those. Like I
Right.
can't see myself delegating that because there is a creative sense. Like I know exactly, okay, what parts I want to cut out, what graphics I want to add in. But the podcast is something that I don't
Right.
edit the conversation at all. So I can just send that to a producer and they do a fantastic job.
I want to ask your expertise. What do you think about this since you deal with so many podcasters? I was just thinking and putting things together, and myself, I was thinking the three things that I need to be doing are these are the three basic things to make money in a business. And there's so many things that come under them and a lot of education, but it's create content, develop products and affiliate links because that's my monetization to keep me in business. And then you have to market your product. Those are the three things I need to be working at any one time. Create content, we're doing now,
Right.
and blogs and all sorts of fun stuff. It's a lot of work to create content. You could do content full time,
Hmm.
develop products and affiliate links, and market your products. Anything else you'd add to that, or what your thoughts are?
Yeah, no, I think that all sounds right. I actually don't. I mean, in my business, I don't do any affiliate marketing. I have a service-based business, so my business model is that having the service for the podcasters and the entrepreneurs, the guest experts that we connect for with interviews, and then the creating content. My business coach teaches it as the $1 million platform. You want to have your email marketing, your email newsletters, your email marketing, your videos, your podcast, your blog, getting interviewed on podcasts, speaking, writing a book, doing that whole content marketing platform to drive traffic to and to bring attention and to build your brand for the products and services that you offer. So that's the strategy that I've been utilizing. It's been working pretty well, but it sounds like it's pretty similar to what you're doing too.
So is that your dad?
Yeah.
Hey,
Jim Palmer.
Jim. Yeah, you're beating your dad. I put in Rhodes, Rhodes, and you popped up ahead of your dad.
Really? What did you Google or
Yeah, I just put in Google, and I also I may be skewed a little bit because we've had you on in context. I didn't do it in a,
Sure, yeah, yeah,
but I'm definitely on the West Coast, and you're on the East Coast, so it's
yeah.
interesting to see how things worked out. But you're popping up pretty high.
Yeah, a lot of times when you Google Jessica Rhodes, you'll find another person named
I just put
Jessa
Rhodes,
Rhodes. Oh,
Rhodes, and
there's some other famous people named
yeah,
Jessica
yeah, yeah.
Rhodes
I
in the
know, I
more
know. Yeah,
provocative industry.
but I just put the last word Rhodes in, so you're
There
you're
you go.
you're trending well on Google.
It's good.
And we talked about your media servers, Lipson,
Yes.
and any reason why you went with Lipson?
They just seem to be the leader in the industry. I know Elsie Escobar well, who works for Libsyn and hosts their podcasts, and that was just seemed to be who everyone was using, and that's who I went with. I've been happy with them.
Okay.
Easy to use and all that good stuff.
And then finally, on your website, how do you use email and social media on your websites?
Sure. So I have a WordPress websites, and I have, as far as email marketing goes, on all of my websites, there is an opt-in box on the right-hand column, which has a bunch of different giveaways,
Right.
lead magnets, and there's also a pop-up box that comes up to build my list. On all of my websites, except for my sales page for Interview Connections, there are links to my social media pages, Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest. And then I don't schedule out any posts on Facebook or Twitter. Maybe I should be, but I just post in real time and just focus on Facebook and Twitter as relationship building tools and just interacting with people in real time. That's what I prefer. Again, it might not be the smartest marketing strategy, but I don't like I don't like scheduling out stuff and having it post up when I'm not there. So that's how I use social media. And then with email marketing, I just consistently build my list, use the lead magnets to build my list, and then I email a newsletter every Monday, and I send out every Wednesday. I send out a short email to promote my podcast episode that comes out.
Yeah, very good. And you got really the basics, how to leverage your
Yeah.
brand, lead magnets, things of that nature. By the way, your
Right.
websites are excellent. I know you've upgraded them and you contract
Yeah.
them out. So whoever's doing your websites, they're doing a great job.
Well,
And
thank you.
and they're expensive.
Thanks.
I know those are expensive sites too. Those are
Yeah, I
pretty.
have a great web guy, Chris, who builds all my websites, and then I worked with a graphic designer who just recently did all my branding. So all of my websites have been
Hmm.
updated with new graphics, and I just like my opt-in box, my lead magnets are all new special reports and all new giveaways, and I think I recently looked into my my email marketing system. I use one shopping cart,
Uh-huh.
and my open rate on my emails is extremely high for what is traditionally a
Wow.
good open rate these days. So I think that just goes to show you that email is not dead and that it's a great way to keep in touch with your community.
No, though I have a great tool to remove email. I was looking at one of my lists and I had 600. I have two different accounts that I use. I had 632 subscriptions.
Hmm.
So I don't know if we should give this out, but here's a little tool for those out there listening. You want to keep the most important ones you want to watch on your emails. I mean, you want to look at a lot of things being in our business, but
Hmm.
you can always resubscribe to them.
Yeah.
And it's unroll.me, and it works with
And what's that service do?
it. What it does is you open it up, it'll tell you how many people you're subscribing to. You have to be
Oh,
using
okay.
a Gmail or any online web-based email server.
Oh, so how many lists that you are
Yeah,
on, not how many
600,
people
no,
are on your
632
list?
that I subscribed to on one of my emails. I
Oh,
have two
okay.
basic emails,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
632, and I've really streamlined those and I selectively add and subtract. I do that in podcasts too. I used to listen to tons of podcasts. By the way, we're going into tying it all together, and this is perfect transition on listening to
Cool.
podcasts. What podcast do you like to listen to? Or are there any, it's hard to say favorites when you know so many,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
what are a couple that I'm sure you listen to a lot, but
Yeah, I'll list out a couple that I
okay.
listen to every week. So I listen to Sheep Podcasts.
Mm-hmm. LCS.
That's a show that I listen to every Monday when that comes out.
That's
Um,
Elsie Escobar.
yeah, Elsie Escobar and Jessica
And just,
Kupferman.
yeah.
Really enjoy their banter and their chats on podcasting. I also listen to This Is Your Life, Michael Hyatt's podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoy that show. And then some different genres. I listen to WTF with Mark Maron.
Did you hear the president?
I did. I did. Yeah. My brother got me into that show. He recommended I listen to the interview with Terry Gross, which is absolutely
Uh,
phenomenal. Oh my goodness.
he's a
Brilliant,
very good
brilliant interview.
interviewer, extremely good interviewer. If you want to
I
learn to
mean,
interview, listen to WP. I mean, it's not as bad as it sounds,
I mean,
WTF.
yeah, I mean, you got to be okay with the F word,
But
but,
he doesn't always drop it all the time. And
No, yeah,
the
it's
president, I don't think he dropped it.
he didn't drop it at all with the president, but I think Terry Gross is the best interviewer in the world, and Mark Maron's not far behind her. So to hear them together was amazing. And just since then, I've been listening to it a lot. And it's interesting because he interviews a lot of people in the entertainment industry, being that he's a comedian. So you can kind of hear the same types of conversations that podcasters have, just in a different industry, which is cool. Um, so yeah, WTF. And then the last one I listened to, which I want to recommend, I just listened to it this morning, is Slate's parenting podcast. It's called Mom and Dad Are Fighting. It's funny. They cover different, news and topics about parenting, and I really enjoy it. So that's 4 for you.
Very good. That that's good. 3 or 4, and
Yeah.
it's always good to listen to them. Now, as you've evolved in podcasts, do you remember when you listened to your first podcast?
I think who knows what the first one was. My memory is discovering podcasts when I was searching for yoga classes on iTunes. So I found video
Mm-hmm.
podcasts, and I was amazed because I was, doing yoga in my living room with a DVD from Target.
Yeah.
And, spending $20 on a DVD. And then as I was searching online, I found that there were free yoga classes via a video podcast on iTunes. And that's really when I figured out that there's this amazing content out there for free. And then from there, I don't know when I actually started, downloading them on my iPod or my iPhone, but that's my, yeah.
And you can listen to them. You download them. You use Wi-Fi, so you're not using your bandwidth. You can listen to
Yeah.
them anywhere. You're traveling, playing. That time that you'd be doing other things, like you're dozing off, whatever.
Hmm.
I don't think you cut the lawn, do you?
I not at the moment being this pregnant, but I do like to. I did a few weeks ago.
Isn't that bad?
Well, when you
All
have
your
kids, you're like, it's your quiet. It's like it's
Yeah.
a time when nobody can bother you.
Well,
So,
my 15-year-old's out cutting the lawn now, so
oh, nice.
that works well. So, in tying it all together, here's the big question. We
Mhm.
just added this. This show is being developed by podcasters, and this was some of the input from podcasters. They sort of like to know what they believe in. So what are some of their top habits? So what we do is we call this, "What are your top 7 success rules?"
Mhm.
And I know we just flop back and forth. We just brought this question up, so you put those together pretty fast, but
Yeah.
you had them off the top of your head without even thinking. So
Oh, absolutely. So I'm gonna just
you had
look
more
back
actually
here.
than 7, but
I've probably have way more than 7 if I keep thinking, but the first 2 kinda go hand in hand is to hire a business coach and work with a mastermind group. Do you want me to just list them or kinda
no,
go
no,
into
go
them a little bit?
talk a little bit about it. No,
Yeah.
no, no. Definitely explain a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, working, as we mentioned briefly, my business coach is my dad, and I'm in his mastermind group. I invest financially in that group, and it has paid dividends because I can't tell you how many decisions I have made because of the group that have helped my business grow, or decisions I have not made because of the group and because of my coach advising me differently. And it's been incredibly valuable, extremely helpful to just have like minded individuals who are also investing in their success. So having a coach who has been there and done that, who has a track record, who can save you so much time, can you help you avoid failures that he or she has made in the past, is so helpful. So absolutely recommend a coach in a mastermind group. My third rule for success is to delegate. If you want to be a solopreneur forever, that's great. But if you want to really grow business and find higher profits, I think delegating, hiring team members, whether it's virtual contractors or employees, whatever your business is, delegating is absolutely key. And then focus, follow one course until success.
Very good.
This is on my list because it's been the name of my game this year. I am pregnant. So in 2015, my whole goal has been to follow one course until success, to not launch any, new products and services and go different directions, but to look at what my business is and make it the best it can possibly be. So I've just been following one course until success this whole year, and it's been great. My fifth rule for success is to take risks and slash invest in your success. I going to conferences, which is a big sometimes financial risk because you're putting so much money out to fly there, to stay there, to eat there, to pay for the conference ticket, to invest in, advertise different conferences, and taking risks is what helps you grow, and investing in your success. I just hear a lot from entrepreneurs who have a hard time growing they don't want to put out money that's not coming in. But when you're in business, you have to take those risks. You have to put the cart before the horse if you're going to grow. So taking risks and investing in your future success and profitability is really, really important. And then my sixth rule is to know your why. Know why you're in business. Know what is really driving you, because that keeps you grounded and it keeps you focused. Like my big why is to, originally, it was to be a stay at home mom. My husband and I are transitioning. He's going to be working from home and I'm going to be getting an office out of the home. And my big why is to grow my business to really financially support my family in a big way. So I have my why and that keeps me grounded. It keeps me really, really motivated. And then my seventh rule for success really came to me. I just interviewed Joan Sotkin, who's a client of ours. She works with people.
I've interviewed Joan.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
probably sent her to you.
Yeah, you did. You did.
She
I got to get her back. Her podcast is good too.
Yeah, she's great, and she works with people on their relationship with money. And her big thing is if you don't want to manage your cash flow, look at your numbers, you have no business being in business. So my seventh rule for success is to manage your cash flow, to know your numbers, and to really just understand, sales, marketing, what's going on in your books. I have a bookkeeper, I have an accountant, I have people that can help me with all the taxes, but you've got to know to an extent what's coming in, what's going out, and where you're
Mm-hmm.
at there. Because it's very, very easy to, well, not very, very easy, but it's relatively easy to have a nice gross revenue coming in and be net negative. So if you're not looking at your cash flow and not managing your money properly, I mean, that's what Joan's story is. She had
Right.
Jones stones, Jones crystals. She was, what in today's money is $50,000 a month coming in, and she went bankrupt because she didn't know how to manage her cash flow. So that's my seventh rule of success. I think it's very, very important.
At Joan Socken, episode 69 on timelines. Very good.
Yes.
And she has good sound too. She does a good podcast.
She's great. Yeah.
She's very good. So Jessica, again, that was amazing what you just did, because I know you're a busy person and you've got a million things going on, and you've just put that together so fast, and you just found out about it because we changed the format just yesterday.
Yeah, I
the
was
last
out.
couple days. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's very good. And we're at 27 minutes. So just tell us how we can connect with you and contact you. I know you've got a lot of different places to go, but what are the best sites?
Yeah, my home base is Jessica Rhodes. That's Rhodes, jessicarhodes.biz. We'll get you to my blog. From there, it's very easy. I've got links all across the top and down the side to my podcast, my videos, my business, all those different sites. But if you go to jessicarhodes.biz, very easy to find all the other places I am on the web. So
Very good. That's a good place to start. One place. And we'll have links to as many places as we can for you on the website,
awesome.
including your Twitter and all that fun stuff.
Perfect. Thank you, Bill.
Well, thank you, Jessica. And remember out there to listen to a podcast, listen to Jessica's podcast, and remember to rate hers and this podcast.
Thanks.
Take care. Okay, we are off on the podcast, and we're about to say goodbye on YouTube. So say bye.
Bye.